And it's live. And we'll be singing bye, bye, Miss American Pie. Let me actually make sure that we are live. Hopefully I am, because sometimes it's hard to tell when you're setting up one of these streams. I think we are. Chories. Right. Welcome. How is everyone? Yes, Macca, how you doing, mate? Mate, I might need to hit you up about something, by the way, Macca. That thing that we spoke about before. El Dante, how you doing, mate? Ludwig, how you doing? Nice singing. Thanks, mate. Steampunk Cowboy, some name. How is everyone? Welcome back. I said we'd be doing these daily in January, and we are back again to preview the Liverpool game later on tonight. I'll be there. Hopefully some of you guys will be as well. I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously, it's going to be very, very difficult. Liverpool absolutely battered us in the last league game, 6-3. It's going to be very interesting to see team selection from both sides. I'm going to go through my starting 11 and what I'd do. Hopefully I'm loud enough and stuff like that. I had someone say I was a little bit quiet yesterday. Hopefully it's all good. Macaulay, how you doing, mate? Jesse Newman, Benjamin White. That's not me. That's not me, mate. Nice one, Macca. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Look, it's one of those things that there's obviously not a lot of great feeling around Spurs at the moment because of, the results, naturally. It's very poor. But if you can't get up for a cup semi-final, then what can't you get up for, right? It's going to be a big old game. So hopefully Spurs give us something tonight to kind of go home with and something we can take to Anfield, Volume's good. Okay, cool. Loving the 75 hard. Nice one. Yeah. If you guys want to follow kind of my daily vlogs and stuff like that, go over to this TikTok page. I'm kind of just documenting my days on there. And also, if you kind of want to hear me like instantly react to something like Spurs rated or anything else in football, then follow my main TikTok account and also follow my second account as well, which is mainly Spurs stuff. But tonight, yeah, it's going to be huge. It is going to be huge. I don't think... Look, let's go... Before we get into transfer stuff, there's a lot to talk about. Make sure you subscribe as well if you are new, and make sure you leave a comment if you're not watching this live and get involved. So make sure to get involved that way. Before we get into the transfer stuff, we're going to talk about Kolo Muani, updates there. We're going to talk about Leon Skriniar. We're going to talk about Marcus Rashford. We're going to talk about Douglas Luiz as well. So stay tuned for that. We're going to, first of all, quickly preview the Liverpool game. And look, I'm not going to do an in-depth tactical preview. We kind of did that for the league game, and then they absolutely battered us. We don't really know what sort of team they're going to go with. That's why I haven't put any of their players out. I don't think they're going to rotate too much because they've got Accrington Stanley in the Cup. On Saturday, obviously, we've got Tamworth, so we're not going to rotate heavily either. This is the Spurs team that I think Ange will go with. However, as much as I don't think Johnson is playing that well at the moment, we saw in that in that league game, although we absolutely got battered, there were moments in that first half when Liverpool were right onto us that there was a little bit of space in behind, and it kind of felt when I was watching it that it was the sort of game for Brennan Johnson. So maybe instead of playing Bergvall, despite how impressive he was on Saturday, maybe he packs out a midfield of Kulusevski, Bentancur and Basuma. Obviously, Maddison and Papsar are suspended for this one. It's going to have to be Gray and Dragusin, Porro and Spence. We don't have any other option really as a back four unless Alfie Dorrington plays, which I don't think he will. I think it'll be Son and Johnson out wide, especially after Son didn't start on Saturday. I think it will be Son out wide. I think it might be Kulusevski, but part of me really wants to play Bergvall or Bedival, but I think something like this, just a bit of a double pivot of Basuma and Bentancur and Kulusevski in front. I think I would prefer that. Josh Hayden says, if Johnson starts, we need to have Decky central and Mikey left. It's so painful watching Johnson and Son. I do agree with you in terms of profile, right? I don't think Johnson and Son can necessarily play together or necessarily should be playing together. But maybe in a game that might be a little bit more open like this, they might get a little bit more joy. I don't think Mikey Moore will start because he's obviously not played football in a long time, but he will be on the bench, I think, along with Richarlison, along with Yang as well. I think could be on the bench. Obviously, I haven't put a number there. I actually don't know what shirt number Min Hyuk Yang is. If anybody does know, please do let me know in the comments. But yeah, that's what I would quite like to see. Like I said, it is a little bit frustrating because I think that, like some of you guys have kind of addressed there, I think Son and Johnson are both final action players that I don't think should be playing necessarily together. We need that kind of creative winger. I think it's more of an issue against low block teams, to be honest. Teams that will kind of sit in deep. I don't think, obviously, Liverpool aren't going to do that. And they're not going to rest their players, as Gulab says. El Dante says, I hope we actually get a good referee today. The one versus Liverpool and Newcastle really weren't it. I think Newcastle was definitely worse. Richarlison winner will be there. Imagine that. Kai said, so nervous for this game. Mate, I'm nervous, but we're the underdogs. I'm not expecting too much. I'm just kind of hoping we get a good performance and we'll just see what happens. You know, cup games, you never really know, do you? Jesse Newman says, ready to sit and listen to you for hours. I appreciate it, mate. But yeah, it's you guys let me know what you go with, whether you make any changes to that, whether you'd like to see Bergvall start in this game. I would like to see it. I just think Basuma, Bentancur and Kulusevski for a game like this, I think is probably the better midfield. But then you've got Bergvall on the bench who you can turn to as well. Obviously, I'm missing some players off the bench, but with Maddison and Sarr out as well, we obviously are lighter on numbers. But these are kind of the players that will be able to impact the game off the bench, I would say. But you guys let me know. Hopefully we get a good result. And we'll see. We'll be speaking about it tomorrow, whatever happens in the YouTube video. But let's get on to the juicy bits. Let's get on to the transfer stuff. Actually, never mind. Before we get on to that, I haven't even talked about Kinski. It sounds like Antonin Kinski is going to make his debut, which is really exciting. And it could be Brandon Austin, but I think it's probably going to be Kinski. You know, chuck him straight in. He seemed confident. If you guys want to know a bit more about him ahead of his potential debut tonight, go and check out the latest video on my YouTube channel. Antonin Kinski is perfect for Tottenham. You'll understand a bit better why when you watch that video. But I'm sure you guys probably know a little bit more about him already. Josh Hayden said, I wouldn't argue either way for both those squads. I think I prefer the first one personally with Kulusevski on the right. Fair enough. Do I think Liverpool put out a weaker side? I don't think so. They might make a couple of changes. I don't think Szoboszlai is available, which is a bonus for Spurs because he really, really hurt us. He's one of those players where, like, watching Liverpool this season, I'd kind of been a bit frustrated with Szoboszlai, but watching him against us, and again, it's a hard barometer and litmus test because obviously we are weak at the moment, obviously, right? But I thought he was excellent, absolutely excellent. A lot of Liverpool players had a lot of had good games that day, but I thought Szoboszlai was really good. So he'll be a miss for them, but it'll probably be Jones instead of him in midfield. I think Jota will start for Liverpool. Yeah, I think so. Archie Gray winner. Imagine that. We might not do what we do and turn up against the best team. George Whiting says, who knows? We shall see. El Dante wants to see Bergvall in there. You guys let me know in the comments as well if you're not watching this live. And Wilson T sums it up pretty well. Going expecting nothing and we could be pleasantly surprised. I agree. I'm excited for tonight. I think the better atmospheres this season at the Lane have come in the Cups. Because there is this obviously real sort of desperation to get there. And look, if we do get there, I know we just lost to Newcastle, but at least we might not have the anxiety of a North London derby final. Showing about the Arsenal last night was incredibly enjoyable. Darren and Doing, Will, my boy. New episode of Darren and Doing is out now as well, by the way, if you want to go and watch that and listen and subscribe on Spotify, Apple, all those kind of good things. It is out. We had a good chat about the Newcastle game. We kind of chatted about this game as well. It's this episode here, the Diamonds in the Rough one. So go and listen to that and subscribe as well. We're nearly at 1,000 subscribers. So if you guys watching this stream and watching the video after, if you could go and subscribe if you're not already. I do get a lot of questions still about like whether I've got a Spurs podcast or not. Me and Will have been doing it since March. So if you don't know, what are you doing? Anyway, right, enough of the Liverpool game. Guys, give me some score predictions in the comments and the chat as well. A Newcastle Spurs final will be brutal, says Josh. Both teams are desperate. Absolutely, mate. It'd be great for the neutral, wouldn't it? I think I made a TikTok actually this morning saying like Spurs versus Newcastle is the League Cup final that everybody wants to see. Like I said, go and follow the TikTok as well. Anyway, right, let's move on to some transfer stuff. So actually, before we do that, is today's semi-final the most important Tottenham game since the League Cup final in 2021? I would argue it probably is. Get mate James Lawrence Alcott in here for a Spurs chat. I'd love to. Absolutely love to. Billy Price says, I believe Andrew will pick Austin purely on merit for the weekend. Potentially. I'm not necessarily heard anything that Kinski is starting, but there are some rumours that he might be. So who knows? Is this the most important game for Spurs since the 2021 Cup final? I'd probably say so. I said the Man United game was the biggest game we'd had in years. So we're through to the next round, and here we are. It's a massive test, but we'll see what happens. Right, Marcus Rashford. Obviously, you guys would have seen the title. He's included in there. Apparently, according to the Daily Mail, Chris Wheeler, who I think is one of the more... Obviously, with Daily Mail, you kind of have to take things with a little bit of a pinch of salt, but sometimes they get things. THFC, so Tottenham, AC Milan and Borussia Dortmund want Marcus Rashford on loan. Any deal could hinge on proportion of his wages Manchester United will cover and the fee of an obligation to buy. Sounds like obviously United want an obligation. I'm not enthused by the idea of Rashford. I like Rashford as a player. And I think there's a great player in there on his day. I don't think that Tottenham should waste their time trying to be the club that maybe saves him and gets him back on that path. I also don't think he presses or works hard enough to play in an Ange Postecoglou front three. I think he's got capabilities to be able to play in the front three from an attacking sense, especially in games that are a bit more open, a bit more transitional. I also think he's probably more skillful and dynamic than someone like Sonny out on that left-hand side when we're playing against lower blocks. His burst of pace, his ability to go either side, his trickery. But we've just not really seen that from Rashford. And look, I think there are a lot of different factors to that. Obviously, and Rashford is not a player that I ever want to go too hard on because I think he gets a really unfair, tough time from the media a lot of the time. But it's, I just don't really want to be the club that tries to resurrect it, especially on the wages. And I think United would want to offload a lot of that wage bill, given their PSR kind of concerns. And obviously, they'd want an obligation to buy because of their PSR concerns as well, and the fact that he's homegrown, it's pure profit. I saw yesterday that they were rumoured to be looking at selling either one of Mainu or Garnacho. Some Spurs fans were thinking about Garnacho. Again, I'm not really sold on that. I think United should be moving hell and earth to keep Kobbie Mainu rather than Garnacho, but I wouldn't really want Garnacho at Spurs. And Rashford, he's on, what is he on? He's on like 325 grand a week. Any deal would hinge on what proportion of the wages United are prepared to pay, as well as the size of the fee as the obligation, like I said. I just don't see this moving forward from a Spurs perspective. I think apparently, according to The Athletic as well, he's actually in talks with AC Milan. And also, I think from Rashford's perspective, when you look at some other players that have gone away and gone to Italy and gone to other countries, I think going away and going and playing abroad will do him the world of good. A bit of change of scenery, get away from England, get away from the English media. I don't think a move to Spurs necessarily makes sense because that scrutiny will still be there with Rashford. Like, United is a different beast in terms of the media circus, but like, he's still going to be in the Premier League at the end of the day. So there are going to be so many eyes on him. And I'm just not sure he is the fit. So obviously, Kolo Muani I think would make more sense because I think offers more versatility in terms of being able to play up front mainly, as well as out wide. So I'd prefer that. Let's go through some of the comments. Dreaming is free. Did you know that Werner is good with tackling and he's got speed? Just saying Van der Ven is in. You're trying to say play Werner at centre-back. 2-1 Spurs tonight. MUDFC says another Werner. We need a big scoreline today. Anfield is a write-off. Yeah, very much. Do you think that Kolo will happen? Seems PSG want it to be an obligation. I think it could. I genuinely think it could. We'll come on and talk about Kolo Muani in a sec. Peter Gordon said, Rashford is a good person in his community outreach, etc. But as a footballer, his attitude is all wrong. In our slump, he would disrupt the dressing room. Yeah, I think so. I feel like this might be agent generated to try and accelerate and move abroad. I think so as well, Will, to be honest, mate. I don't think Spurs should necessarily touch this. I also think this is lazy journalism from a Spurs point, like, to link him with Spurs. I said it in a video that I made on TikTok just before I jumped on here. Like, Rashford to Spurs links were like one of the most obvious links that you will get this January. Like, it was bound to happen. And I just don't really think there's anything in it. I think, however, I do think there is legs in Kolo Muani. I might be wrong. Also, someone makes a good point in the comments or the replies to this tweet saying about Rashford, saying that we've actually never bought a player from Man United. We've never bought a player from a top 6 club under Levy, I don't think. Randall Kolo Muani remains a top priority for Spurs. No talk so far between Spurs and Rashford's camp, although he is a player that has interested Spurs in the past. There was links, I think, in the summer as well. Travis, how you doing? Merry game day. Yang looked very explosive in the training videos. I think that's exactly what he is, mate. But he's also obviously very raw. Wilson T says wouldn't touch Rashford. I agree with you. Pletty goal. Luis Enrique has given Randall Kolo Muani permission to leave PSG in the winter transfer window. So he's definitely going to leave. He's definitely going to leave. However, PSG continue to insist that it must be a loan with an obligation to buy, as a permanent transfer is currently unrealistic. Now, obviously, I'm not sure whether Spurs would pay an obligation, especially around the money that they are looking for. I'm not sure any team would necessarily pay it. Therefore, I think that it's more likely to maybe be an option, which then I think brings Spurs into the game more. I think they might relent and say, okay, look, we know that we're not going to get him out the door. We probably want him to. He really wants to go to get game time. There's been a lot of really good threads about Kolo Muani as well. I think, Travis, I don't know if you're still here, but I believe Lily White-Labry tweeted one yesterday, I think it was, talking about Kolo Muani. Where is it? Here we go. Yeah, counter press. This account is really, really good. The perfect Ange Postecoglou attacker, an analytical deep dive into the supremely talented Kolo Muani and why we thrive at Tottenham. So that is a really good read. Go and give it a read. So if you want to kind of learn more about Kolo Muani, and like I said, if it does continue to hot up, there will be a video on the channel. Tottenham are pushing for him. Man United, Villa, Juventus all involved. Chelsea also interested. Monaco out the race. There was some more about Kolo Muani before. Oh no, that was it. I think this one could happen. I do think this one could happen. I think it might be one that kind of drags on, and PSG eventually sort of say, okay, you're right, yeah, maybe not an obligation, but an option. I think Kolo Muani, I would not be surprised if Spurs actually push hard to get this done, because I think there were some quotes from Ange on Solanke. Obviously, we know that Ange has been open about signing players. Here we go. He said about Solanke, he's been brilliant for us. Hopefully, in the very near future, we get some help for him, and then I think we'll see him go to another level. I think he was asked... here we go. Yeah, he was asked of whether that quote meant a new signing was incoming or that players were on their way back from an injury. Grinning, he said, both. It's hopefully what we can do, but I wouldn't suggest tomorrow. So obviously there's no one coming in imminently. Not a centre-forward, but I think we need some help in the front half if we can get it. Obviously Wilson's still a fair way off. Rich is coming back. We've obviously got to be really careful with him. We've got to try and keep him back. Again, it's got to be the right fit. Is that going to happen in this window? I'm not sure, but we all know that all being well, in 7 days, Rich is back and he'll help Dom for sure. So I think he's obviously said there we don't necessarily want to sign an out-and-out centre-forward, but I think with someone like Kolo Muani, he offers that versatility where he can play out wide. Also, I don't think, Ange is probably trying to keep his cards close to his chest a little bit. I think if we can't get Kolo Muani, I think they're probably more likely to move on to more of an actual winger target. But I think they're probably thinking ahead a little bit, knowing that Richarlison can't really stay fit and it, kind of ticks two boxes. Why do you think Muani has failed at PSG? I don't really know, to be honest. I find it hard to judge players at PSG half the time because the circumstances there are often complicated for players to be able to thrive. Rashford is the last player we should be looking at, says Kane. High wages, lazy, one-dimensional, inconsistent, causes drama. Travis says, I do think PSG will eventually give in. They have very little leverage in this situation and have been pretty careless about selling, loaning players in the past. I think you're right, mate. If Kolo Muani happens, then Odegaard and Kolo chemistry is going to be insane. Let's hope so, mate. It could be a smokescreen. Who knows? It could be a bit of a smokescreen. And like I said, I think if Spurs don't get Kolo Muani, I don't think they'll go and buy a striker. I think they will then move on to like a proper winger target and just bank on Richarlison being fit, which is obviously hard. Whereas Kolo Muani, I think, offers that versatility. But it sounds like we are pushing hard for him. So I think Ange is probably trying to play his cards a little bit close to his chest here with these kind of quotes. But he's obviously trying to say that we want new players in to give Dom a little bit of help. So anyway, moving on to the centre-back situation. Spurs are one of the clubs considering a move for Milan Skriniar. And then there was more about that from L'Equipe as well. Tottenham, Aston Villa and Galatasaray. He stinks of Galatasaray, doesn't he? Have all positioned themselves to sign Milan Skriniar. The defender is expected to choose his next club in the next few days. I just don't see how, I don't think Spurs can make the same mistake again. Look, Skriniar is a very good defender, don't get me wrong. And when we had Mourinho, and we sat more in a block and we were linked heavily with Skriniar that summer, I really, really wanted him. I really wanted it to happen. And like I said, he's a very good defender. He's only 29 years old, so that experience can definitely help Tottenham. But I don't think we can waste the time. Profile is so important. I think some people will look at this and think, yeah, great leader in the dressing room, winner, that's kind of what we need, blah, 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 blah. I get that totally. I do think Spurs need an element of that for sure, but I think in a position that is so key in build-up, and obviously you have to be able to defend, and Skriniar ticks that box, absolutely. But is he progressive? Not particularly. Is he great on the ball? Not particularly. Is he quick? Not particularly. It's one of them ones. I just think that I wouldn't be like fuming if Spurs did this, but I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. And I think we should kind of learn our lesson from the Dragusin signing of not signing players with the correct profile to play in this back four for Ange. You going to the game tonight, Callum? Yes, I am, mate. Josh Hayden says Dragusin and Skriniar will be so bad. Yeah, I mean, objectively, like, they're two good centre-halves. Imagine Mourinho with Dragusin and Skriniar, my word. Barry McConnell said, Ange made a comment about not blocking Vuckovic's pathway. Part of me thinks they can get away with outsigning a centre-back if they will. I think that's a fair point. Was that quote recently or was it in the summer? I feel like he made a quote about it in the summer, didn't he? Will, Darren and doing, obviously, Will said about a left-back or a centre-back. I'm leaning to more towards a left-back. I think you're probably right. I probably agree with that. Because we should have Romero and Van der Ven back by the end of January. Obviously, there's a lot of games to get through between now and then. I think a left-back is more of a priority, to be honest, than a centre-back in this window. But I would like both, but I just don't think it's going to happen necessarily. Mourinho and Conte shaking their fists if we ever line up with Dragusin and Skriniar. Skriniar was great as part of a back three under Conte. He was literally be perfect for him. Where else? Travis Leveson says, good point about moving to a winger after, as you and many have said, January is all about opportunities. Randall Kolo Muani is an opportunity. Exactly, mate. It's exactly what it is. And if they can't, then I'm sure there's other players lining up. And has failed in playing a four at the back. Skriniar, yeah. Five at the back defenders, certainly. I think United, if United needed a centre-back, I think Skriniar is a central centre-back. But then again, they've also got De Ligt and Maguire. He'd more fit that system, I think. Not having a Van der Ven replacement is criminal. It's something we definitely should have done in the summer, but I'm not sure they're going to do it now. But we'll see. Look, I think Skriniar is a really good defender. He's been one of the best defenders in Europe over the last 5 years or so. But the system has to be right for him, and I don't think the system is right for him at all. And I think that, like, it's kind of like, you have to think about profile. You really do have to think about profile with these kind of things and make sure that you get it right. Let's move on. This one does excite me. Travis, I know you weren't particularly interested in Douglas Luiz and keen on it, but I wouldn't mind it. I think he's got experience. He's Prem proven. He's good on the ball. Him at his best at Villa in that sixth position, I think, could work for Spurs. I don't think he'd be perfect, but I think there's only a couple of sixes that would be perfect for Tottenham, and I think one of those is Belieber, which is not happening in January and not happening. Peter Gordon said, so much Dragusin hate, he's faster than you think. I don't hate Dragusin. Look, I just don't think he's good enough to play in our system. That's all it is. Okay on the ball. I don't think he's good enough on the ball. I think the margins are too fine. He's commanding in the air. That is true. I think he'd complement Van der Ven. I think it'd be better with Romero. I think Dragusin would be much better with Romero, if I'm being honest. Macaredit said would be unreal if Luiz is a must if there was a chance to go for him. Now, there are some rumours that this is starting to gather a bit of pace. Now, the other day, Sky Sports News said that there are 2 Premier League clubs that are actively interested in Douglas Luiz. I predicted I made a TikTok video about it. Where was it? That account, this account here, where was it? Douglas Luiz back to the Prem. And I was kind of saying it was a bit of a no-brainer for where's the right tab? That one. A bit of a no-brainer for anyone in the Premier League, to be honest. And I said Spurs, I'm looking at you. I think he's more of a pivot player, Travis. Like, I think you're right. Like, I think as a lone six, I think a lot of sixes would struggle in our system. I think Cardozo would struggle despite being the sort of profile I think we need, just kind of as a destroyer. I enjoyed Lily White Lab's kind of analysis on that. The thread that you guys put together, or the tweet that you guys put together. What was I saying? I think there's a lot of sixes that would get exposed in their system, regardless of what their strengths and weaknesses are and how they might differ to the other options, if that makes sense. I think Luiz, I think this would be a great signing for Spurs. I really do. Like, I think it's like another one. I kind of compared it to the Kulusevski-Bentancur thing, not just because it's Juventus, but because I think January, like Travis said earlier, and a lot of other people have said, it's about opportunities, and I think it's about going and identifying players that aren't quite hitting their ceiling at the club that they're at, but you know there is real potential in them to thrive in your environment. That's what we did with Kulusevski and Bentancur. And I think Douglas Luiz, he'd probably want to come back to the Premier. Know he'd get game time. But, well, he'd probably get game time. He's got great experience. He's a really good player. At his best at Villa, he was great. I'd imagine it'd be like a loan with an option or obligation if we were to get it done. And I think when Ange spoke about like not having enough players that were kind of at that peak sort of age, prime sort of age, I think Luiz, obviously at 26, I think he is, only started 2 games in Serie A. I think it'll be really good. I think it would also open us up to the possibility of probably moving on one of Basuma or Bentancur in the summer if Luiz fits better as well. And then I think it means that we probably wouldn't have to do as much work to sign a midfielder in the summer because we've also got Bergvall and Gray. I think if we went into next season as our main midfielders being Maddison, Bergvall, Gray, Douglas Luiz, Bentancur or Basuma, I'd probably lean towards Bentancur, and Sarr, I think we'll be in quite a good place. I quite like that as a variety. But obviously, remains to be seen whether this will happen. There is some rumours coming out of Italy now as well. Tottenham are keen on signing Douglas Luiz this month. Fulham have made a concrete move for the Juventus midfielder. Now, I could kind of see that at Fulham, to be fair. But are now worried that Spurs could hijack the transfer should they formalise their interest with an approach. He's got a chance to come and win the Europa League. I think he'd probably come as well. I think he'd come. This is a guy that I think Arsenal should have... I think this is a guy that Arsenal probably should have brought in when they had the opportunity, especially when he could have gone on a free, I think, to Arsenal, maybe. George Whiting says, excited to see Gray back in the middle when the centre-back boys are back. Me too. So let's keep an eye on this. That, I don't want to say too much, but there's been some reliable kind of people that have sort of said there might be legs with this. And I don't want to... That could be absolute nonsense. I don't know, but... it sounds like there might be a little bit more in this than just speculation. So... keep an eye on it, see what happens, and we'll kind of go from there. That's pretty much it from a transfer perspective, to be honest. Let me just have a quick peruse of Twitter, see if anything else has come up. If you guys are aware of anything, then please do shout. First tweet I've just seen is Billy T to the Spurs Express tweet of Douglas Luiz saying, please, mummy. And I agree. Gus, who is a great follower on Twitter, has said short-term, Luiz solves a lot of our midfield progression and control problems, innate ability to switch play, which I think is massively helpful against low blocks. I don't think we really have that, other than actually Bergvall. Elite set pieces, great corner taker, which, again, problem for us. Expansive passing range, pauser to slow down and control and make informed decisions, strong understanding of high lines and covering space. Wouldn't be surprised if City are looking at him as a 6-month stopgap for Rodri. I said that in my TikTok video yesterday, but I think Gus is pretty spot on there, to be fair. Anything else? Any other comments? Let's have a quick chat before we go. Matthew Sapola, how you doing, mate? What's up, Ben Luiz? If he comes in, do you think that affects the possibility of Cardozo? Look, Cardozo, people got to remember that Spurs haven't agreed to sign Cardozo. Spurs have just agreed a fee if we want to buy him. So if there's another midfielder that tickles Spurs' fancy more than Cardozo, especially maybe if we, hopefully we don't, hopefully things work out. If we change manager and they think that he's not necessarily suited, all Spurs have basically done is agree a price, and we've basically kind of called dibs. That's kind of what we've done, and it worked. Look, if someone else wants to buy him, then we get some of the money anyway. So, if Paratici's hears about Luiz, surely jumps on it and makes it happen. Paratici seems to be more involved again recently. I've kind of seen him at games and stuff like that. Like he'll be on that. I think if there is anything that in that. Richard Rios, I think we spoke about that yesterday. Opinions on Tomori. I wouldn't mind Tomori. I wouldn't mind him. I think he's I hate to kind of stereotype about these kind of players. You guys will know what I mean. But like, he's athletic, he's strong, he is those kind of things. He's decent on the ball, but I think he'd be fine. I think he'd be all right as a loan signing for 6 months. Would love Luiz. See you later, Barry. Why is Basuma so damn inconsistent? I know it is frustrating. I think a lot of it's down to him. I also think it's hard to be consistent in this system as a 6. I do genuinely believe that. We would have to sign Alicia to bring him in, lol. Maybe. Let's see if there's anything else floating around social media before we leave. Do I think Kinski will start tonight? Yes, I do. I think that's pretty much it. I saw Bournemouth had some terrible injury luck over the last couple of days. Evan Nilsson, broken foot, and Enezu now has suffered an ACL injury. Just saw that on Twitter. I I think that's your lot. Look, hopefully Spurs have a better experience with the football than Arsenal did last night. It's very different to the Premier League ball, apparently, so make sure you watch out for that, Spurs fans. And that's your lot. We're going to leave it there. Hopefully we get a good result tonight. Really excited for the game. Look, like I said, despite the poor form Spurs are in, got to get excited and got to get up for a cup semi-final. Anything can happen tonight, so we shall see. Hope you guys are good. Have a good rest of your week. I'll be back on the channel tomorrow, probably live doing a stream talking about transfers, and also there'll be a video about the Liverpool game breaking it down. So hope you guys have a good day. Hope you guys enjoy the game later, and hopefully we're talking about a Spurs win tomorrow and maybe have one foot in the final. Bit optimistic, but we'll see. Have a good day. Up the Spurs. Nice one.